talking about the cost of games. We're talking about how expensive games are.
Yeah.
And the problem is that as these online companies are dropping prices on games so you can get stuff cheaper, the games themselves are getting more expensive. And that's starting to really annoy me, because then you could go and buy a game off of an FLGS for like $50, right?
Yeah.
And then you can get them online for $35. Now the new games are $70, and you get them in the store for $100. I'm like, what happened?
Where's the increase? And it's not necessarily production value.
Some of it is.
Some of it is, but not all of it.
Because
some of it, no, I think some of it is just them capitalizing on the market expanding.
Yeah.
The market is growing. People are getting into more complex games now.
Yeah.
So they're capitalizing on the market. It's typical market strategy.
Yeah, and one good point is this game right here. Role Player retails on the Board Game Bliss Great Board Games for about $54. Sagrada costs about $40, $42. So it's nearly $20 cheaper than Role Player. They're both die placing games with an almost equal number of dice. I do not know why Role Player is $20 more than Sagrada.
I love Sagrada.
I love both these games.
The look of the game. This game is great. It's got more mechanics.
There's more stuff in this game,
yes,
but cards, like the extra cards they've added, aren't $20 worth of value.
No, absolutely. But I love the look of Sagrada. It's pleasant. It's aesthetically pleasing. Yeah. This, while it's a great game, doesn't have that same appeal to
True,
me.
but I like this game mechanically. It's more enjoyable because I'm a D&D player.
Yes.
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about what you said about the production design, because this game is not $20.
No, it's not. Production-wise?
Production-wise, it's not $20 better than Sagrada. And yet it's $20 better than it's $20 more than Sagrada. We look at games, the fact that you can grab a Legend of Andor game for about $50.
Yeah.
And a Legend of Andor game is just packed.
Yeah.
With unbelievable, no miniatures, but just packed full of stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll grab like Indian Summer. Now, Indian Summer also costs about $50. And all it is just cardboard.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of cardboard. But come on.
It's just
you look
cardboard.
At Photosynthesis, and Photosynthesis you can get for $38.
And it's just cardboard.
And it's just cardboard.
Yeah.
So, like, why in the world? And there's something to say about production design, art. I go, it's a combination of things. It's the company who makes it. It's how much they can sublet the graphic design.
Yep.
And then it comes to how much money that they have to back that to create enough of a large production run. And that's ultimately what the biggest problem is. Thunderworks is a new company. They have this and nothing. Where Sagrada, a whole bunch of other games are made by well-known companies, like, whether it be or new companies that have a lot of backing. So when they come out release it, they'll go to a Chinese printer and say, we want 50,000 of these, and they'll get it for $2 a game.
Yeah, because they can afford to do that.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at what you get in Scythe, because Scythe is loaded.
Oh man, that box is heavy.
And it's $84.
Yeah.
And it's like, is this game $100 more? And I don't know if it really is. Because this game has about 16, 17 miniatures. I have seen, and like I said, we just unboxed Grim Forest. And I look at that game. That game is $60, but it looks like $60. I think it should be $30, and it should have its plastic miniatures replaced with cardboard standees, because that doesn't change the game.
But that leads to one of the topics that we're going to talk about is the miniatures too.
Yeah, but once again, like I said, I want to get to these one point at a time, because I want to make sure we.
But that still needs to be mentioned, because as more games come out with more miniatures, the cost goes up, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, because you can replace those miniatures with cardboard, and they'll work just as okay. And in some cases, the cardboard cutouts work a little bit better.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Well, like I said, for example, Gloomhaven has, like, the character miniatures are all plastic. Really nice. Every monster is a cardboard standee. And the art was quite good. So I'm looking, I was like, okay, well, why didn't you make the whole thing cardboard? And drop the game down to $100. Yeah. When it comes down to it, I look at... And this is the one thing. When they came out with Subterra was relatively cheap, and you could order the plastics later, right? And the issue I had with Dead Men Tell No Tales is that they were really pushing their miniatures, right? And I think if I remember correctly, if you wanted to get the whole thing, like the base game, the expansion, you basically had to get everything, which means miniatures. And they were pushing their miniatures really hard.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I didn't back it because I felt like, wow, I'm spending a lot of money. If I remember correctly, this game's only $38. I'm spending $100 for the expansion in the base game and miniatures, which I don't necessarily need. And I was like, don't you want miniatures? And like, oh, look at these amazing miniatures. I'm like, wouldn't it been awesome if it would have been awesome if they made the Batman game and said, here are the cardboard stands. This is the base game. It's only $45. Gives you everything you need. And then here is the miniatures. Here are the miniatures. Here are the miniatures. Here's everything you need. Instead, they said, no, it's $120 to start up. Here it is, $140 to get you into the Batman game. Gives you all these miniatures. And then you scroll down the Kickstarter and go, look at all these miniatures. You scroll down.
That's
for a minute, for a full minute, scrolling down, going through everything they have. And then look at the expansions. Look at all these amazing miniatures. Look at the Batmobile. Look at all this. Look at Clayface. And then near the end of the page is like, oh yeah, here are the rules of the game. Gloomhaven doesn't even focus on that, but I backed City of Gears because City of Gears was like, sure, here's a plastic piece.
Yeah, but it was after the game had been explained.
So going what I was saying before, because I have no idea where it left off. I have issues with a lot of these miniatures, like Batman. I did not pay into Batman because I found the campaign reprehensible. I found it reprehensible. I felt that they had that franchise. They were milking money for miniatures, and they didn't. Maybe also, the Conan game, which is based on, is very, very good. I said, I'm sure, but is that a $200 game, or is it $180 worth of miniatures for? And then they threw some rules. I don't care how good the rules are.
Yeah.
How much of the game is just buying those miniatures that I will?
Well, not only that. How much of that game is the licensing as well? I mean, it's Batman. It's a pretty big license. Look at Planet Apocalypse as an alternative. It's not licensed by any major franchise. No. And the artwork is weird, but in my opinion, it's really good. But they still did the same thing.
Yeah, they made a lot less money.
They did.
Oh yeah, $4 million to $500,000. I mean, that's no chump change, but it's still a lot less money.
But it's also it is a very niche theme. It's very dark.
That being said, I know Keith Thompson. I hate saying that. I actually talked with Keith Thompson. I almost hired him for Amethyst.
Yeah,
he's an amazing artist. He's not cheap, so I know.
Well, that's
getting him to make that artwork was not cheap.
Exactly.
But that still being said, the miniatures were extremely expensive.
Yeah, and they still did the same thing though, where they advertised the miniatures first, and then the game.
Not so much though. I actually went back to that campaign. They go into the game component stuff first. Then you talk about miniatures. They show miniatures in the display.
Yeah.
But within the first page down, they're talking about the game.
There was. I do remember there was a YouTube video. I didn't watch it entirely.
Yeah. Like the YouTube video just showed the miniatures.
Yeah.
You scroll down the campaign. They talked about rules within the first page. But if you actually go to Batman and just scroll, you're doing that for about 20 seconds before you actually see them talking about the rules.
It was like Kingdom Death.
Yeah, but Kingdom Death. Yeah, Kingdom Death was made by a miniature company.
It was, and their miniatures are fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's what's first and foremost, and that's what they're selling on people right now.
Yeah, and like when it comes to oddly enough, of all the games I have very few games that have miniatures. Gia, they're all painted, which I think is weird and awesome. Mm-hmm. We have Grimm, which is an example of this trend. We have Gloomhaven, which we haven't seen what they look like. We have games. We have Subterra, but the miniatures are very poor. Because I think we've avoided a lot of high miniature games with a lot of miniatures. Scythe has miniatures, obviously,
but it's not.
They're nice. They're not
good.
They're not unnecessary.
But it's not the front and foremost of the game.
It's not. Yeah, exactly. There's meeples, and then there's But yeah, that's one thing. But I look at Nemesis and Planet Apocalypse. I'm looking forward to these games. I backed both of those. But there's a part of me was just like, is this
me buying miniatures or me buying a game?
Yeah, I spent a lot of money on Nemesis. I didn't realize until after the fact how much money I paid on Nemesis.
Yeah,
$200.
Well,
and that's an example we're talking about.
What was the recent game that I just sent you? It was a British game. I couldn't remember, and it started at $200. It was like £100.
That was the Pyramid game, right? That was
the
one that failed.
Yeah,
it didn't fail. They canceled it. I don't know why the details, but they canceled it. But they canceled it. But yeah, it had an opening bid of like $200.
That's nuts.
That's
That is-
crazy.
that's
and I
nuts
think
for
I
a
think
game.
there's going to be some blowback, and people are going to turn off because if there's going to be a big $200 miniature game every 4 weeks, most of them are going to start failing, and that's the problem we're having now because Kickstarter has hit this stride with board gaming where it seems like every major board game that looks like they have their act together is making their goals. The downside is that there's a point where this is going to hit its crescendo, and I think it's coming down to a point where, like I said, I have 16 games pending on Kickstarter,
Yeah, I remember saying that. Yeah.
and I've received Subterra, and it was a very colorful experience. I like it. It has issues, and they have suffered a lot of controversy since then. And that's it. Bears versus Babies is simplistic. You know, Exploding Kittens was simplistic, so I don't count those. But now I'm waiting on these big projects.
Yeah.
The first one I'm going to get is Who Goes There.
Oh yeah.
And when that arrives, that's going to be a real barometer because those guys have been very upfront and open about every single aspect of the game.
Yep.
The production designs look amazing. They have videos where they're showing off things that are going through testing. They have a lot of infrastructure down. They're doing a really good job keeping people communicated. And if the game shows up and it sucks, I'm like, oh god,
Yeah.
I have 4 more of these atrocities to go through. And because some of these games, I'm not like I backed all these games in general. I'm not going to see these games till like 2019 to 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Star Realms was a big game. They were promised to deliver in December of 2017, and they haven't yet.
Yeah. And it's.
And they also haven't updated their Kickstarter in like 4 months.
I heard that they're getting some blowback though on that.
Oh, not really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean that's a long time. Especially for
There are lots of Kickstarters. If people expect their Kickstarter on time from the date they say, you're delusional, and please, for the love of God,
Yeah.
don't back any Kickstarter because you're just going to
You're
make
just
people's
gonna
life a
get
living
pissed
hell.
off. Yeah.
They're gonna have a
but I mean-
goal.
but
They're gonna
it's
give
the
themselves some
communication
leeway.
thing.
Yeah.
It's the communication. If
Yeah.
there's no update, there's a lot of blowback.
Yeah. My Kickstarter is 4 years old and it's not done yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the difference between mine and other Kickstarters is that it's been producing content for 4 years. It's not like no one's gotten anything. They've gotten like 15 books over the last 3 years. The last books are coming out now. But it has been a process for 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's been a real learning curve. But for me, yeah, oddly enough, we've read of very successful Kickstarters that have delivered. Rising Suns shipments went out in the last month. Seventh Continent came out.
Yeah. I was just going to mention
months
that
ago.
one. That one.
This one
Yeah.
sent out last year, right? Now it's hitting retailers. So we've had these noteworthy successes, which you and I have missed.
Yeah. Seventh Continent is one that I kind of regret not getting into.
Yeah, in fact, it's a really big budget, epic game that does not focus on miniatures. I'm starting to think like,
Damn it.
Ugh.
Yeah.
and it's a tile-based game, so I don't know why. I think at the time I was just squeamish, and now I'm like,
But
I'm
it
not
was-
knowing, like who wants my money?
Here, take it.
Here, and now
Making it
I've
rain.
blown all this money on like miniature game. I'm like, oh crap! I shouldn't have done this, should I? I should have actually spent it on games that are actually going to be good.
Yeah. That's one that I regret. But it was still expensive to get into. If you want,
How much was it?
I think, if I remember correctly, the whole thing, the whole kit was almost $200. I mean, I think it was about £100, which is a lot for a tile placing. But I mean, you saw how many things you got? I think it was
It's a
like
big game.
1,200 cards or something like that.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It was nuts.